in Cash Patel, and someone who's a threat to our health in RFK Jr. There's no question at this point that if I were a senator, I would ask them. I'd do one thing. I'd block every last one of them. I would not let it. I would tell. I mean, the White House is saying, "Oh, you Republicans, y'all don't get to advise and consent, advise and adjust." That advise and consent basically is, you do what we tell you to do. That's not your problem. You're in the minority, and with a very thin majority on the other side. What are Democrats prepared to do to make the point that these three individuals is a line that they are drawing on behalf of the country, that this administration is going to have to come back to the table with somebody else? Because, I mean, you already saw what your boy from West Virginia did to Democrats for 18 months. I don't understand why you can't do the same to Republicans.
Well, for me, Michael, this is not even a partisan issue. The reality is we have a responsibility, a constitutional responsibility to advise and consent. And so when you don't get background checks on people, when you don't get the information before you have a hearing or meet them, that first of all says we got an issue.
Right.
When I look at these individuals, I'm looking at your ability. Can you do the job? I'm looking at your experience. Have you ever managed anything? Do you know what mifepristone is if you're trying to be the secretary of HHS? And what is your character? Again, I've been blessed to serve in Delaware as under two governors, and I've gone through the cabinet process. And, I'm also looking at, and I've asked on some of these individuals on my one-on-one meetings, if the president is saying or doing something or proposing something that you think is bad for this country, will you speak up?
What's their answer?
Some have said, "Oh yes, I will speak up. I will follow the law."
They're lying.
This is lying. But I got to ask the question.
I know.
I know Alicia has a question. I just want to real quick. So did you meet with RFK Jr.?
I have.
And they made him available to you. How was the meeting?
The meeting was very interesting. I had concerns going in.
Why was it interesting?
I had concerns going in, and I have more concerns, and I'm looking forward to this hearing. For me, I was, in addition to the issue of vaccines, which so many people have talked about, and we know the danger of this, not being able to really, first of all, just putting out misinformation and disinformation and possibly profiting from it. That's a problem. I asked questions about reproductive freedom. I've heard that he was pro-choice, and I've heard he is now whatever Donald Trump says. And so I wanted to get some clarity on that. Some of these things will come up in the hearing this week that you will hear. And then I wanted to know, what do you know about this department? It is the largest, one of the most biggest budgets in the federal government. And I was Deputy Secretary of Health and Social Services in Delaware, as well as Secretary of Labor. So again, I recognize that you're going to have to manage, and ultimately it is about our public health, our safety, and also making sure that we lower costs. So I also asked about the prescription drug negotiations. Are we going to continue on with that, and are there going to be more opportunities to lower costs for the American people? So it'll be an interesting hearing this week, I will tell you that.
Let's talk about where his stance on vaccines and cost for consumers might actually intersect. This is from Politico. The more far-reaching options that Kennedy has discussed with allies include disbanding the main panel of experts that advises the government on vaccines, evaluates their safety, and recommends which vaccines should be routinely administered to children and adults. And this is the part that I want to underline and talk about. Its decisions can also affect whether public and private insurers cover the shot's cost for patients. I mean, there's the reality for our communities and our children if these vaccinations are not available. There's also the reality for folks like myself. I'm still going to vaccinate my kids. The difference is my insurer now may choose not to cover it.
There are a couple of things there. First of all, the issue of your insurer not choosing to cover it. which again is a problem. And there are also vaccines for children program that we need to make sure that our kids are safe when they go to school. And then all of the hard work that we as Democrats put in to make sure that seniors could get vaccines for free. And so again, it isn't just how he believes, it's how it will be implemented and show up for us. And then there's the other issue of the scientists. You know, someone can say, I believe in science, but if they believe in a science from some unfounded conspiratorial scientists who don't even have a background in science, then that's another problem. And so for us, I think this hearing is going to be a very interesting one. Senator Bernie Sanders actually convened a panel of experts to talk to our Democratic caucus members about vaccines and about the efficacy and about how we need to be looking at this nominee.
There's science and then there's science fiction. So.
The Senate is gearing up for another big week of confirmation hearings for President Trump's cabinet picks. RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, they're all set to appear before committees on Wednesday and Thursday. Pete Hegseth won an extremely narrow confirmation vote on Friday to be the next defense secretary, despite deep concerns about his qualifications. It's unclear what that means for this latest round of Trump nominees, including Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. Critics point to her, lack of intelligence experience, past statements supporting Russian President Vladimir Putin, and a meeting Gabbard had in 2017 with now deposed Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. On Meet the Press, Senator Lindsey Graham wouldn't commit to voting for her.
Senator, can you say right now, are you a yes on Tulsi Gabbard?
I'm going to see how the hearing goes. I'm inclined to be yes on everybody, but there's some questions she will be asked that I want to hear the answers to.
Inclined to be yes. Joining me now, Dr. Basil Smikle Jr., professor of practice at the School of Professional Studies at Columbia University. He's also an MSNBC political analyst and Democratic strategist. And Charlie Sykes, MSNBC political contributor, columnist, and author of the newsletter To the Contrary. Gentlemen, especially Charlie, I haven't seen you in a long time. Thank you both for coming back to the Sunday show. So Charlie, I'm going to start with you. Lindsey Graham says he's inclined to vote for her. What's going to happen with Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and RFK Jr.? They're all going to get confirmed, right? Or am I wrong?
Well, I don't know, but I was thinking as I was watching your last segment, if this was a genuine meritocracy, we would not be having this conversation, would we? We would not have these nominees up before we would not be talking about any of them. And the problem with those three is not that they are unqualified, which they are. They are grotesquely unqualified. The problem is that they are dangerous and they bring a great deal of baggage, which I think Democrats ought to and should highlight. And Tulsi Gabbard in particular, comes from one of the strangest places in our political fever swamps, not just her, affinity for dictators like Syria and her youthful idiocy with Russia, but the kind of person, really the last kind of person you would want in a position that is that sensitive. And I think this is what has to give the senators pause. But again, we're having this conversation 2 days after the United States Senate put in Pete Hegseth to run the Department of Defense of the United States of America. This is a man who could not have held down a job, as a greeter at Walmart. He could not have run the local vape shop. And if they're willing to do that, then they're willing to roll the dice with our law enforcement, with our national security, with our intelligence community. Mm-hmm. But we will see.
Basil, to this point, since Pete Hegseth got in, a lot of people were saying that, maybe he got in because some of those Republican senators were, holding their powder for one of these three, for RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, or Kash Patel. Do you have any faith that that theory could be true?
It's a scary theory because it suggests we're going to let one bad person, we're going to let a few bad people come in, but we really want to focus on a really, really, really bad person. Like that, none of that makes sense. None of that is actually good for the country. I don't know if any of these will get confirmed, but it's clear that something that we talked about with Trump in Trump 1 is true in Trump 2, which is that these are folks that don't have a tremendous amount of qualification for the job. In fact, they're probably less qualified than the civil servants that Trump is going after and getting rid of, right? But what he's doing is using these individuals as
Kennedy lifted the evil of President Donald Trump mandate, the classified to assassination files, the various conspiracy theories, and other criticism of investigation continued and arose after our report and have been amplified by the fact that the entire report was never released by the investigation conducted by Congress. Forensic pathologist Mr. Michael Bowden told Fox News Digital, expectations are the 14,000 documents that will be released by President Trump may shed a light on the various mistakes of misinformation that have circulated since. Trump on Thursday signed an executive order aimed to